everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of Hand the Mic Over. I'm your host, Mevish, and today I have a very special guest with me. She's here to share her experience growing up in the GTA as an island girl. So without further ado, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hi everyone, my name's Anaya and I'm really excited to be here today.
Thank you so much, Anaya. Before we get started, would you mind sharing which general age range you're from and which countries you are associated with?
Well, I'm 24 and my mom's from Jamaica and my dad's Trini.
For anyone who might be listening who's not familiar with where these countries are,
They're in the Caribbean.
are you able to speak your native language?
Well, I don't really have like a native language. It's more so like a dialect of English, but a little bit, I guess.
Okay, what dialect would that be?
Patois is spoken in Jamaica and like a bit in Trinidad as well, but they have like their own little twist to it. I can speak a little bit of the Jamaican dialect, but not so much the Trinidad.
And were you raised with this dialect?
Yeah, both my mom and my grandma grew up with this dialect, and they both can interchange between speaking like how I'm speaking now and then using that dialect, but I grew up with them at home speaking like that, so yeah.
Would you say that a Canadian English speaker would be able to pick up on this dialect, or is it quite different?
I think that in Toronto, a lot of people kind of speak with a fake Jamaican accent, like they want to be from there, so I think some people would be able to pick up on stuff that's common or stuff that has been normalized here, but there's certain things that I'm not sure that everyone would understand.
Do you have any examples?
I feel like a lot of people here say wagwan.
Okay. Wagwan. I feel like I've always heard that
Yeah.
spoken by those Toronto roadmen.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can relate to this, but growing up in Toronto, I did not hear patois spoken at all. And I think when I was around high school, so somewhere from like 5 to 10 years ago, it really started picking up in popularity and suddenly everyone was speaking it.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. Maybe there's a lot of Jamaican influence in Toronto, but I don't know why it like suddenly took over.
Yeah.
Like out of nowhere, I'm not really sure.
Yeah, I was suddenly like, wait, are we speaking the same language? I actually didn't even know that people were speaking patois. I just thought they had put their own spin on English here. Then I learned that it was a legit dialect, and I was like, oh, since when did this become our dialect if it exists somewhere else?
They do that in the UK as well. There's a lot of Jamaican influence there, and a lot of, I guess, roadmen or whatever they want to call themselves speak like that.
Mm-hmm. Would you say that there's a large Jamaican population in Toronto?
I think so, like, especially in, like, the Kensington Market area and Eglinton West area, Little Jamaica.
Okay. Yeah, because I grew up in North York, and I don't think I met anyone from Jamaica. Maybe one person from Jamaica. So I was very confused how this dialect spread so fast in the whole city.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened.
Interesting. Well, moving on. Did you immigrate here or are your parents immigrants? How did you come to Toronto?
Well, my dad was born in London, Ontario, and then my mom was born in Jamaica, and she immigrated here when she was in high school.
So you were born here then?
Yeah, I was born here.
Okay. Has your mom ever spoken about what life was like in Jamaica before coming here?
I think Jamaica life is silly. Like you just wake up in the morning, you go outside, you just pick some fruit off your tree, you just relax. Like it's
not like the hustle bustle of the city
it's
here.
not, but people still work hard. That's the crazy thing. It's like they work hard, but they still enjoy life at the same time, and they enjoy the simplest things in life. And I feel like here, there's not really much to enjoy though. They have such beautiful things that they could just step outside and see. Like, what do we really have? A bunch of buildings.
The concrete jungle. What neighborhood or general area of Toronto did you grow up in?
I didn't actually grow up in Toronto. I grew up in Mississauga, like around Square One area.
So what would you say your neighborhood was like? What kind of communities lived there?
I would say there are a lot of East Asian, but also like South Asian as well. A lot of like Arabs. Not so many Jamaicans or other black people. There's some white people as well.
Did you feel like you were a minority in your neighborhood or in your school?
Yeah. There was a lot of other different races. Like it was multicultural, but there's not a lot of black people.
Yeah. You mentioned that your parents both arrived or were born in Canada, but then the neighborhood in in Canada that you were growing up in, it wasn't really populated with people from your community. Did
Right.
you ever feel at any point that you were not Canadian?
Kind of. I don't know. The thing about Canada is there's so many people from so many different backgrounds, and they all have their own cultural norms and stuff that they have going on at home. And I feel like when you don't have people that understand what your home life would be like, it's kind of hard to fit in.
For sure. What was the earliest point in your life where you can recall not feeling like you belonged?
Maybe in middle school, because I was friends with a lot of white people and South Asian people, and I don't know, they just had a different lifestyle than me and were able to do a lot of things that I wasn't fortunate enough to do. And I just feel like they weren't really understanding of that, and it is kind of hard to like fit in with people that didn't understand, like, I can't do everything you guys are doing.
Do you have any examples?
My mom used to like work 2 jobs, so if my friends wanted to go out and like go to the movies or something normal, I didn't have a ride there or a ride back, right? So sometimes I couldn't go because no one else could give me a ride, and like they would be like, "Oh, well, you never want to go out with us," but it's like, how am I supposed to get there? Fly myself? I don't know. Like,
And this was around middle school?
yeah.
Ugh, that's the worst time because you're already feeling insecure growing up.
You know, and you do want to hang out with your friends and you do want to fit in, but there's only so much I can do as a kid.
Yeah. Was there a point
Mhm.
where that changed and you started feeling like you could relate to your friends more? You felt like you belonged more?
Well, I moved to Brampton for high school, and I feel like when I was in high school, my high school was predominantly black people, and especially like a lot of Jamaicans live in that area, so I felt like there was a lot more people I could relate to and felt comfortable with and like that understood me. So that's when I felt like a shift in how I felt in my community, at school, in my relationships.
Did you keep in touch with your friends from Mississauga or did you just move on?
A few of them I tried to stay in touch with, but I just realized they don't really get me. So those relationships ended up dying over time. It's not really like a hard feelings thing. It's just we were kids. Now we're like completely different people. I haven't seen you since I was like 12 years old, and like I haven't really talked to you since then. So it's like I have no idea what's going on with you, but like I hope you're well. But
Mm-hmm. Was there ever a time where you tried to share why you were, different from them or why you were not able to do the same things as them? Or were they just never open to listening?
I don't think I tried to share. I don't think I fully conceptualized it at that age, why they didn't understand me, why I didn't fit in so well there, how to even communicate those issues at that time.
So, what do you think your child self would have benefited from? Feel like you belonged more? What did young Anaya wish for?
I guess just understanding that, especially in Canada, like it's literally just immigrants all together on one land, basically. And I just feel like there needs to be a better understanding that people from different ethnic backgrounds have different cultural norms and different things that they're able to do, different levels of how strict the parents are, just so many differences. And I know it's hard for kids to probably conceptualize that, but I think there needs to be like just more awareness and more understanding. Like,
When you came to Brampton and you met other students like yourself who grew up being part of a Black community, do you feel like they had gone through the same struggles as you growing up?
I feel like some of them, yeah, but most of them grew up in that community, like in Brampton, and grew up with each other, so they all kind of had each other.
So are you saying that maybe you would have had a more positive experience growing up if there were more Black Canadians like you in your neighborhood?
Probably. I would feel like I fit in and can relate to more people in school, and I would feel more welcomed and more comfortable in that environment.
As a child, I feel like when you're growing up and you're not able to find people who accept you for who you are, you start to kind of change yourself to try and adjust or be more relatable with your peers. Do you feel like there was ever a point in your life where you maybe tried to be less Black or you felt like you had to change your background or the way you act, basically put on an act around the people that you were with?
I used to like hate my hair so much because no one had hair like mine, so I used to straighten my hair all the time. Also, my music taste when I was in middle school is so concerning to me. Like, I used to listen to like punk rock,
Really?
crazy music.
How did you get introduced to that?
I was just friends with people that listened to that stuff, and like even like I had my Starbucks phase. I don't want to talk about Starbucks because I'm boycotting. This is middle school. I had my Starbucks phase with my white friends, and with the Uggs, and like what I'm talking about.
Yes, the image that popped into my head is like the pumpkin spice latte, giant scarves, high knee boots.
Exactly that. Literally. That was just a different time. But yeah, like I definitely did try to fit in, but at the end of the day, that's just not you.
What was your family's response to that? Or were they not aware of what was going on?
I don't feel like my mom thought it was that deep. Like I was just trying to dress like everyone else. It's because kids want to fit in. Kids want to fit in at the end of the day. So I feel like my mom was pretty understanding. Like I didn't want to wear things that like no one else was wearing. It's pretty normal that I'd want to like dress like everyone else or like listen to the same music or watch the same shows my friends do, but I don't think she realized it wasn't just a thing to just fit in. Like I wasn't accepting myself.
Exactly. And I think that's such an important point that a lot of people don't realize. When you're a kid, you have a very different perspective of people and culture and identity versus when you're a grown up.
Yeah.
A lot of people, when they talk about discrimination and growing up in a country with a different culture, they usually approach it from a perspective where you already understand your identity and then you're not accepted. But when you're a kid, you're just so unsure. You're just figuring things out.
Yeah. So you're very easily influenced by like what's around you, even if you know it's not you. Like I feel like you know it still, but it's just like everyone else is doing it. Why shouldn't I? That's the kid mentality.
Even if you feel like it's not right,
Yeah.
it's just how it is. So you're like, yeah, I'll do that.
Yeah.
When you moved, did you feel like you could be more like yourself, or did you feel like you had to change from that act you were putting on in middle school and then you had this sort of awakening of, oh, that's not who I was all this time?
I feel like I kind of thought that's who I was, and then I had the awakening. When I started hanging out with other friends, like people that came from the same background, knew the music that like my mom would play when I was growing up, and like stuff like that. Like I feel like I realized, oh yeah, I don't really like all that other stuff I was doing. Like I should be doing this instead. What was I doing?
I just want to jump into your move to downtown Toronto because I know that you
Yeah.
moved from Brampton to here for school.
Yeah.
What was that like?
It was honestly a big difference to me. Brampton is this huge city that's just so isolated. You have this one little neighborhood with a couple grocery stores, gas station, convenience store, and then, a bunch of a million other houses, and then that's about it. Everything is so spaced out and so far. It's so poorly planned. The transit system is horrible. It's so hard to get around that city. And then you come to Toronto. I know a lot of people complain about Toronto, but if you're from any other city in Ontario, probably you come to Toronto and there's the subway, there's the streetcar, and there's the bus. What other city in Ontario has that? So it's just way more convenient, way busier though. But I do feel like there's a lot of different culture and it's like comfortable for everyone for the most part. I mean, there's some weird stuff that goes on for sure, but I think it's a good city and it's integrated pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think it's the most diverse city in the whole world.
Yeah, I think so too.
So at that point, you were an adult and you were much more aware of your identity. You'd kind of grown into yourself. When you were living in Toronto, did you have a lot of Jamaican or Trinidad communities around you?
Yeah, like specifically in my area, I live near Eglinton West, which is right by Little Jamaica. So I have a lot
Okay.
of Jamaican influence in my area, and I feel pretty comfortable here. Everyone's like a nice community here. I've been working at a different book list, my grandparents' bookstore, which also has a lot of Caribbean influence. They have a cultural center, they have a lot of events there, and it facilitates a good community for people, specifically Black people, but they're open space to anyone really.
Do you think that you were able to hold on to your identity because of your neighborhood being so populated with people who are Black, or do you think that it was who you were and it didn't matter who was around you?
I think at that point it was just who I was, but having community and having people around you that understand you, it's just good for your mental health.
Definitely. Honestly, like, we're being vulnerable. I'll share my perspective too. It wasn't until I met this one friend who was brown, who was also growing up in like similar circumstances as me, that I was like,
Mm.
wait, I can be myself and be accepted. What?
No, it's an eye-opening experience.
Yeah, there's like this internalized racism that you're growing up with.
Yeah.
And it's so hard because at home, it's home for you to be like that. And
Mhm.
that's, what you feel comfortable with. And then as soon as you step out the door, you're like, I have to hate myself.
Literally, yeah. It's just everything changes when you realize you don't have to hate yourself. Like you just need community. That's really it.
Exactly. One thing that I did not grow up with at all in school was learning about my culture or my people. We were not represented at all. But I know that we learned a lot about Black people. But
Mm-hmm.
it was always during Black History Month, and it
Mm-hmm.
was just extensively learning about the history of American slavery and Martin Luther King Jr. So was that in your curriculum too in
Yeah,
Mississauga?
yeah. That's literally all they talk about. Like Rosa Parks, Martin Luther King Jr., like those are the staples. I think this is Canadian and Americans. Like they don't talk about the world properly. Like I feel like we do geography and history horribly. The things that we decide to talk about are just silly. The things that are actually going on in the world are never really talked about and not talked about from the perspective of the people that actually went through it. It's the people that attack them that's always telling the story. So how do we know if you're even telling the truth? Anyways, point is, I don't think school does a good job of explaining history or culture or anything of that sort because I don't think they really care to. So I think it's up to people, especially if you live in a diverse place that has people from different cultures, it's up to you to educate yourself.
Do you have any more accurate resources or any platforms that you know of where people can learn the real history of Black people?
If I tell people to go to a bookstore and get some books, are they going to?
I think in our age group, probably not.
Just a different book list. Go on their website and whatever ethnic group you're trying to learn about or learn about the history, whether it's Black people, whether it's what's going on with Israel and Palestine, whether it's what's going on in Sudan, what's going on in Haiti, anything. They have books for everything, and they're books that are written and checked to make sure that they're historically correct and not just propaganda.
I didn't even know that. To all of our listeners, definitely go check out a different book list.
They're starting up a podcast. It's student ran, so they're going to be talking about different topics, stuff that's going on in the world. They talk about other stuff too, like just fashion and just celebrity stuff, normal stuff, but they also get into politics sometimes. So you can check that out at Blackhurst CC.
We'll post a direct link to that on our Instagram, so definitely check that out at Hand the Mic Over. What kind of cultural clothing comes from Jamaica and Trinidad?
I don't even think we have any really cultural clothing. Just jeans and a shirt. Jeans, they wear the tightest skinny jeans and button-up shirt.
What about some food from your two countries? What are some dishes that you love?
I really like jerk chicken from Jamaica. I love patties too. Patty with cocoa bread. Really good. The national dish of Jamaica is ackee and saltfish. A lot of people really like it. I also really like oxtail. Oxtail is pretty good. From Trinidad, I really like doubles. I like roti.
One thing about, I guess, Trinidad and I think Guyana as well is that I think there's a really strong Indian influence there. I think because a lot of people migrated from India to
Yeah,
the Caribbean. So, like roti, and you have chapati there?
we do.
You
Yeah.
guys have like a lot of foods that brown kids grew up eating,
Yeah,
but
I know.
there's like a twist
Yeah,
on
there's like
them.
a different twist to them, but that's why I like brown food too. Because I like grew up eating like very similar stuff.
What would you say is the difference between brown food and Caribbean food?
I think it's like just a seasoning difference, like the slightest flavor difference, but they're both so good in their own way.
What's the entertainment industry like in Jamaica and in Trinidad?
There's a lot of Jamaica, there's dance hall music, there's reggae music. Trinidad has like soca and calypso. I'm not really sure about TV. I didn't really grow up watching any or like exposed to any TV from either country.
Are there any artists that people could check out that you know have traditional music that they make?
You can listen to Vibes Cartel or
Vibes Cartel. Hold on, let me write this down.
he just got out of jail.
Oh, congratulations! What kind of music does he make?
Dance hall music. It's like stuff you would hear in the club.
Okay, okay. Is there any spot in Toronto where you've had authentic Jamaican or Trinidad food, or are they still working on getting it right?
There used to be this place right beside my grandparents' bookstore that had the best Trinidadian food, but they closed down. And I haven't had any place good since then. But Jamaican food, there's Diner's Corner. It's on Yonge. That's really good. And a lot of people like Rasta Pasta in Kensington Market. I think it's okay.
Interesting. Your taste buds do not approve. All right, well, Anaya, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the podcast and sharing your story. I'm sure it was a very vulnerable experience and it might have been a little scary to talk and open up about this, but a lot of people will for sure resonate with it and hopefully learn that they're not alone. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I had a great time.
How do you say bye in Jamaica or in Trinidad?
I don't know if they have like a special bye. I feel like they just say bye. See you later.
What about another one? Because we did Wagwan. That's basically how you greet someone, right?
Yeah. You know what brethren is?
I think so. Is it like your brotherhood or something like
Yeah.
that?
Like your friend. It's like something you would call your friend. Like you would say Wagwan brethren.
Wagwan brethren. I feel so Torontonian and Jamaican at the same time right now. All right, then I guess I'll have to say bye the English way then. Take care.
Bye, Mevin.
Bye.
Take care.
Bye,
Thank you
Anaya.
for having me.
That concludes this episode of Hand the Mic Over. Thank you so much for listening to and supporting our podcast. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel, Hand the Mic Over, or check us out on Spotify, also Hand the Mic Over. If you'd like to see some pictures and hear some music from today's podcast, then check us out on Instagram. Our handle is Hand the Mic Over.